2 days after Natalee Holloway went missing, the investigation into her disappearance was already in trouble. Beth Holloway thought the police weren't moving fast enough.
There was just no question that something terrible had happened. It's just, and parents know.
While Aruban police thought it was too early to assume the worst.
In the islands, there tends to be a mentality that don't worry, they'll show up, you know, it's okay.
That's something no mother of a missing daughter wants to hear. Beth Holloway and her friends began their own search, plastering the island with posters and creating a tip line. The calls quickly began coming in.
Most of the tips were coming in that she was alive. We were chasing just any sighting of a blonde female that halfway fit Natalee's description.
Then, 3 days after Natalee vanished, Beth says she got a break that led her right back to the 3 locals and the hotel where they said they left Natalee.
Where they showed us that they dropped Natalee off, there's no doors or anything. So it's very clear to see anybody that would come in or out of that breezeway area.
Beth says she viewed hotel security footage, and that if Joran and the Kalpos had dropped Natalee off, Beth should have seen Natalee on the surveillance tapes.
No, Natalee never came back to the Holiday Inn Hotel.
For Beth, the video proved the 3 young men were lying, and still they remained free. This was the point when Beth Holloway started to think the worst of the Aruban police. She feared crucial evidence had been lost.
We were really just so desperate trying to get them to go and search the home and search the car, open the trunk.
Now, more than 72 hours after Natalee's disappearance, the investigation entered a new and very different phase. Beth Holloway began to rely on the U.S. news media.
Natalee, you can reach me on your cell phone. I have it, and it's set up for international use now, and I will stay here until I find you, Natalee.
There's no question it had the makings of a media blockbuster. A beautiful young American missing in paradise and a desperate mother fighting for answers.
We will do whatever it takes. As I've said from the beginning, I'm not leaving Aruba without her.
Within 4 days of Natalee's disappearance, America's 24/7 action news hit the island like an invasion force. And then they began to arrive.
Yeah, and then they began to arrive. And, you know, we were just, any invitation we had, we just said yes.
It's been a full week now since 18-year-old Natalee Holloway
She
of
left
Alabama
a bar with
vanished.
3 young men who lived.
The barrage of cameras and constant coverage overwhelmed Aruba's small police force. Steve Cohen, now a news director in San Diego, was hired by the Aruban government to help with the media. He says the high-profile nature created a competition, with authorities often chasing cable news networks for potential evidence.
I'll give you an example. A 50-gallon drum is found in a dump, and the top cop is called, and he says to me, Steve, we've got a 50-gallon drum. I want to get there, but I don't want everybody else there, because God forbid we open up this drum and she's there. Well, we wind up at the place where we're looking, and a Fox News crew is there with the mother. The mother is there ahead of us. They had their own investigators, so they got a tip. They got there before we got there.
Hans Moss, Aruba's current chief prosecutor, agrees that the media spotlight was negative and says it even had a derailing effect on the investigation.
The press is really sensational. They addressed people in the streets and asked if they knew anything about the case. We have had the stories of people being paid to just comment on the case, and people did. And they came up with new leads, which we found out were completely ridiculous and nonsense. But since we had no opportunity not to investigate on that, we had to investigate on all this these made-up stories, which had to be investigated, because if we didn't, we would get a lot of criticism of the press that we didn't investigate.
And in late 2007, investigators learned that potential witnesses with good information did keep quiet in fear of becoming the media's latest target for a primetime interview. 6 days after Natalee disappeared, police made their first arrests. 2 former security guards, Mickey John and Abraham Jones, who had worked at a hotel near the Holiday Inn where Natalee was staying. Did Joran and the Kalpos finger the black security guard?
They did, yeah.
Joran van der Sloot would later admit that he and the Kalpos lied and said 2 guards approached Natalee after she was dropped off at the Holiday Inn. In Aruba, Suspicion of a serious crime is enough to make an arrest.
They didn't have any evidence. What they really had was just testimony from the beach people. There are folks that are there year-round and islanders. The names of these two individuals came up. They also happened to be near the Holiday Inn where she was supposed to return that night, pick up her passport, and fly back to the U.S. That's why they were apprehended.
They didn't have any hesitation to arrest these two black security guards, and we're thinking, well, we took them the car and the boy she was last seen with. Couldn't get them to do that. So that's when we knew we were screwed on that island.
But the view from inside the investigation was much different. Police claim they were working many angles.
We are at the main police station in Oranjestad, so this is what we call it police headquarters. Yes. Yeah.
Police Commissioner Dolph Richardson is currently the lead investigator on Natalee's case. He agreed to sit down with me for an exclusive interview.
Was there a kind of a chaos early on?
There were chaos in the sense that as soon as the media got involved, there were a lot of speculation.
Richardson says police were trying to gather intelligence on the three locals, that Joran and the Kalpos were put under surveillance and pumped for information.
That was very early in the investigation. They were brought in for questioning, yes.
The first step in any investigation, according to Richardson, is establishing that a crime has taken place.
The parents want you to run out right now.
Correct.
But in fact, you didn't even know
what we were looking at, yeah.
9 days into the investigation, the former security guards were still in jail. Joran and the Kalpos still free, and Beth's daughter still missing. The cameras stayed put, and the mystery of what happened to Natalee Holloway lingered like a rainstorm about to hit the island.